Okay, special treat today for any of you that know anything about vintage guitars, Fenders in particular. This case should have you trembling with anticipation. This is one from our family. Belongs to my dad. He's had it a long time, and it needs a string change. So we are going to change the strings today. Not doing any kind of restoration or anything like that, just regular maintenance. We're going to clean the pots in here. We're going to clean the switch jack, the switchcraft jack in it. Here it is. It is a 1960. The neck date on it is 1960, the 11th month, November. Today we're going to check out and photograph the body date on it, because this pick guard has never been removed, and we're going to remove it today so that I can clean the volume and tone pots and clean the 3-position switch a little bit to get some noise out. This has been in our family since 1972. Dad bought it used. It was just a 12-year-old used guitar at that point. The collectability really hadn't hit them at that point. Well, today we're going to do the regular maintenance on it and the string change, and you can see what this thing has gone through. I'm not going to say every few months, because in truth, the last 25, 30 years, this guitar hasn't been played much at all. Just enough to get it out and play it a little bit and then slide it right back where it goes. So that's what we're going to do today. All right, we're going to start off today by taking the strings off. We're going to take them off rather gently. I'm just going to loosen the tension on them all and then cut them away. And I'm going to go ahead and speed the video up right here. All right, I will insert a picture. You can plainly see the body date on there. I don't know if you'll be able to get it on there, but I will insert a still. It says 11/60. You saw that it still had the y'all, I'm not sure that these springs have ever been taken out. I kept them in the order that they were put in, and I'm not sure that they've ever been taken out, because I didn't even realize there was a date under that until I saw a video on television, on YouTube. So I wanted to get a picture of that date while I was doing this string change. Also want to get a picture. There's most likely there's a body date underneath the pick guard in the first pickup cavity or the tone pot cavity. I also want you to notice that this pick guard is not cracked. It has shrunk, and I will insert a photograph there showing you where it shrank. But back in the, y'all, we were still gigging with this guitar in 1987. And we noticed that a lot of the vintage Strats and Tellys would crack here and lose a tip because the pick guards were shrinking. We definitely saw that it was turning this greenish yellow here. So what we did is to keep the pick guard from cracking, is we just took a small screwdriver and we turned each one of these about a whole turn, and you can see that the pick guard has shrunk. You can see extra hole there around the screw because we don't have the screws tied in tight. We didn't want the pick guard to crack, so we basically loosened the screws a little bit so that where they're countersunk wouldn't put pressure on the pick guard. So the pick guard is still in really good shape. You can see where it's kind of shrunk some around the pickup cavities and caused a little wrinkles there. But what we're going to do, we're going to take this pick guard off and open it up, and I'm going to photograph all the volume and tone pots to get the date, because I've never done that either. And I'm assuming that everything in here, all the solder joints are going to be old and you know, tarnished over. And while I'm in there, I'm going to put some deoxyate in the pots and in the switch, because it's a little noise and a little noise in the cord jack, quarter-inch jack here. So we're going to kind of clean all them up, give them a little working, but this thing works and plays perfectly. There's nothing to change. As a matter of fact, the action, and this is going to be hard to believe for a lot of you, but the action is a little low for me. And to be honest, we're all the way at the top of the string height adjustment things. I might try to raise a little more. I noticed that the A string is buzzing just a little, and the nut is perfect. The nut is still the original nut, original bone nut. And when we started playing lighter strings on it in the 80s, we had one string that was moving a little bit in the nut, because I think it was probably cut for 11s, you know, like 46 through 11s or 48 through 11s. And we took it down to Strings and Things in Memphis, and all they did was use a toothpick and some baking soda and crazy glue, and I don't even see that spot now. It may, when they took it and filed it out, when they first did it, when they built it up and filed it out a little bit, you could kind of see where it was too wide in a spot. But now I can't even tell where they did it. I do remember there was one string that the nut was, the string actually rattled a little bit in the nut. And I found it by putting my finger on it. Well, we carried it down to Strings and Things, and they fixed that for us. And they thought it was best to fix it and leave the original nut in, so that's what we did. But it's got some dents, it's got some dings, but considering it's got a little bit of fretboard, you can see where it's got the slab Brazilian rosewood fretboard. It's got the thick contour that comes out. You can tell where and I'll inset pictures of all this, you can tell where the strings cross the clay dots, that it's actually prior to, what is it, 63 or 64, when the clay dots were moved around a little bit. And it's lost its decal, the fender decal. Now the original custom body decal is still there. And you know, we were advised that we could send this back to Fender and they would be glad to put the correct period decal for the guitar, but we decided we ain't sending this guitar to California, and we sure ain't taking it, because none of us are planning on going there. little bit of wear in the fretboard from the cowboy chords. You get little bitty dents, nothing at all serious enough to interfere with playing. Okay, so let's take this pick guard out, and I'm gently going to flip it over. You'll be able to see the original backs of the original pickups, and I'm going to, like I say, photograph the pot. So I'm not going to take the neck off today because I've taken the neck off before. I've got pictures of the neck pocket and the neck date. I'll inset those, but I'm not going to take it off again today because there's no sense in it. I've already seen it. I've already photographed anything. It was shimmed from the factory with what looked like a little piece of cardstock kind of cut into a trapezoid shape. And it was sitting at the very back of the neck pocket so as to give the neck a little bump up, but I swear it's not. It's about as thick as a business card, so that'll tell you how much of a shim's in there. And I'm not taking this off today. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to squirt some of that deoxyate into places, and then we're going to put it back together and leave it alone. I mean, that's basically what how we've taken care of this guitar since, like I say, the late 80s. We started getting the idea that these things were really going up in value, and so we kind of started babying it at that point, you know. And it's why I bought a vintage reissue 62 and relicked it, because I love this guitar, and but it just got too expensive to take out. I did take it out in the 90s and early 2000s and used it in the recording studio, and still would. If I was doing a recording, I would take it to the studio, because I've never played another one that sounded like it. And all right, I'm going to speed up the film while I take this off. All right, sorry about that. I got a telephone call. Had to stop the tape a second. I am not using any kind of liquid on here. I'm just using a microfiber cloth and pushing some of the gunk away. I don't want to use anything in here that's got any kind of silicone or wax. That, as you can see, like any old fender, finish is popping off, and I don't want anything to soak into the wood, so I'm basically just using a dry cloth to wipe some of the dust away. I photographed the pots, and from what I can tell, looks like all three pots are dated in the 43rd week of 1960. And I will inset pictures of those in here. And pickups, everything looks perfect. It looks like factory original solder. I don't see anything at all in here that looks like it's been monkeyed with. I've got a sliver of wood here that I got a little freaked out about when I took this off, but I see where it comes from. So I can't see anywhere that it would come from, so I'm guessing I'm just going to leave it in there. It's probably from the factory, and I am going to spray some deoxyate in these pots and work them a little bit. give them a good cleaning, because I know they need it. And you say, am I not going to do anything to the pick guard? No, I'm not. I'm not. There's some people that say, like, putting things on here in furniture polish can make them shrink. So we are not doing that. And I know that what's the guy's name that makes the awesome mandolins? Jerry. I'll put some text in there to send you to his site, but he swears that furniture polish is the reason that a lot of acoustics pick guards shrink and they have to be replaced. And if any of you don't know, that's a big deal on an acoustic because they're glued on. So he is absolutely against putting anything like that on a pick guard, anything chemical. I'm going to clean these frets up. I'm just going to lightly polish them a little bit with some 4/0 steel wool. And then I'm going to oil the fretboard here. And I'm just going to use boiled linseed oil, just a little bit of it, to keep the rosewood looking good. And then we're going to string it back up. And you see, this is about all we ever do. Kind of wipe some smudges away. And there's my steel wool clinging to my, that's great. We wipe the smudges away. I am going to spray down in here and plug a cord in and out of there several times to clean up that input jack. And put the screws back in, but I noticed this is loose. This is twisting, and I do want to tighten that back up. So real quick, and we can speed it up through all this. Unlike the front, these have cracked. Looks like there's a crack in this corner and a crack in this corner. And I need to tighten these screws back up. I guess you noticed that this had 5 springs in it. And these screws were screwed down very close to the body, which means this thing was essentially a hardtail. And that's every Strat I own. That's the way I set it up. But usually the new Strats only come with 3 springs. This one had all 5. And we have the tremolo bar. It's either in my gun safe, I think, is where the tremolo bar is. I need to get it and put it back in the case with this. We still have the original strap somewhere that came with this. But that's pretty much all. We don't have any hang tags or anything like this. My dad purchased this from a Pentecostal preacher back in 1972, and he had bought it brand new, and he believes he bought it brand new in 1962. So he had had it 10 years. I'm guessing it hung on the shelf for several months. Everything in here, neck date's 1160, body date's 1160. The pots are the 43rd week of 1960. So that, you know, probably hit the stores early 61. And he said he thinks he bought it about 1962. And or that's what he told Dad when he bought it, because Dad was looking for a pre-CBS. Actually, he was looking for a telly when he found this, and seemed like a pretty reasonable deal. He got a Gibson, what was it, a Gibson Skylark tube amp, which never sounded good, and this guitar for $300, I think. So yeah, one of those once in a lifetime buys, and we're very fortunate to still have it, you know. And it plays like a dream. It sounds absolutely awesome. I will run some video in here and let you hear it. And yes, it still has the old 3-position switch that, you know, you get, that will catch right in the middle of these two and these two and make them out of phase, which gives it that really good sound. And I'll let you hear it when I get everything done. But right now we're going to close it back up. I'm going to restring it, and I'll let you hear it. I want to show you how I string them to be sure that I get enough wind on here and that I don't get too much. I usually bring the string tight, and then right here where it's going to wrap around its post, I generally add about 1.5 inches. Now these smaller diameter strings, you can actually leave more if you want to, because there's no danger of them filling up your post. I love vintage Fender tuning machines, because I love where you stick the string down in there, you bend it over, and you wind the darn thing up. And of course it helps if you put this the right way. Of course, you can put these under the string tree after. You know, these year Strats only had one string tree. And like I say, I run it about 2 inches past the post that I'm going to wind it on. And then I stick it down in there, bend it over, and run it up. And you're probably wondering why I haven't even looked down the neck see if the neck needs adjusting or anything like that. Listen, last week I plugged this thing in and played it, and it played like a dream. And like I said, the action is almost too low. And while I was getting I thought a little bit of buzz on the A string, I am going to see if I can raise it up just a little bit. And if I can't, no big deal. But I just played this thing last week. It doesn't need anything done with the neck. It doesn't need anything done with the bridge pieces other than maybe that A string brought up a little. But man, I'm at the top of my height adjustment, so I don't know. We'll have to see. You'll hear it. You'll hear it. You'll see that it doesn't fret out. And you know, even with this old 7.5 inch fret radius, and these frets are the original frets. I have had these frets dressed one time. The good news is that we are not a one guitar family, so this thing hasn't been steadily played since 1972. Because we've got other guitars. So this one was, when we needed a Strat, this is what we played, you know. So these are still the original frets, and you could see when I was rubbing a little of the green off of them that first of all, that they've been dressed. You could tell that, I'm sure. And that they're still the little skinny frets that came on these guitars in 1960. And there's no reason that I did half of these and then I'm doing the other half. Sometimes I do them one at a time. I just figure it's just as easy to do the top half and then the bottom half. Come on now. What are we hitting? There we go. Here's that big E. And what kind of strings am I using? I'm using boomers, GHS boomers, nickel wound. Just why I'm using boomers, because I've used boomers for years. I really don't care. Ernie Ball, Slinkies, daggone phone. But the reason I use boomers is because they've always done good for me. And another reason, look at the length of the boomers. I mean, you can't see, but way out here. And some strings that I have tried in the past when I thought I was going to be cool and use something different weren't long enough for my Firebird. And I'm like, you know what? It seems like all the classic strings, like the Dean Markley nickel wounds, the Ernie Ball nickel wounds, just the cheapest strings, to me, are the best strings. They're long enough for my Firebird. They last long enough that and you know, they're only, I just ordered some Ernie Balls today, and what were they? A dozen sets was $60. So what's that, $5 a set? To me, the tone is what I'm used to. A lot of crap they're doing these days is stainless steel and stuff. It changes the tone of the instrument. I like the old classic rock tone. All right. And yeah, I didn't have to touch the bridge height, because when I put new strings on it, guess what? That A string buzz went away, so it's probably just funky string. Okay, this is the neck pickup. I got the tone. I'll start with the tone down so you can hear it. Tone all the way up. You might recognize that tone from let me see. All right, so middle. Turn the tone up on it. Now y'all keep in mind that the bridge pickup on these was no tone control. It runs through that little capacitor, and it is what it is, okay? Very bright. And of course, the cool thing about these old Strats is they had the pick guard would shrink a little, which would help you achieve this a little better. And this pick guard has shrank. You can get it in between the three positions, right? Now you got that out of phase sound. You'll recognize that from that's where that tone comes from. And of course your middle, right here. And you can do the same between these two. You gotta listen for it.